their name here. And I'm talking about none other than the Marquis de Lafayette, a 19-year-old major general in the army. So General Greene was already major general at this point. Kind of skipped past those points, but we'll get to another time to talk about just him. He was the youngest major general in the army until Lafayette came along. But the Battle of Brandywine was a complete disaster. And immediately Lafayette shows how much of a hero that he can be by basically covering the retreat for the rest of the army to escape. And after the Battle of Brandywine, there's one smaller skirmish that takes place. Another disaster for the Continentals, but they march right into Philadelphia, and Howe now controls Philadelphia. Ben Franklin at this point says, "I'd like to think that Howe didn't take Philadelphia, but Philadelphia has taken Howe." It's a very interesting quip with that, but it's great. So Howe's now there, but he's not where he said he would be on the Hudson. What he does is he sends General Clinton with 3,000 men instead. General Clinton goes up towards there, and he starts getting into the Highlands area of New York, where West Point is, Fort Montgomery, Fort Clinton, American General Clinton. That one's named after, not British General Clinton, by the way. But when he gets to where Fort Clinton and Fort Montgomery basically are across the Hudson River from each other, he doesn't get stopped. He gets slowed down. So ultimately he takes those forts, but he's slowed down enough, or too much, to be able to help out General Burgoyne in Albany, or let's say Saratoga. They never made it to Albany. So General Clinton gets stopped there, but he does ultimately come up, but it's far too late. The western side, where we have Colonel St. Leger, British colonel, coming over, he gets stopped at Fort Stanwix. And it's a small battle that takes place right there, but ultimately Benedict Arnold, still colonel at this time, he's already made general at this point. So General Arnold had stopped St. Leger there, and St. Leger had to basically turn around and retract, go all the way back to Quebec. So the three-prong is gone, but Burgoyne is kind of helpless, and he's having a miserable time trying to get there. And what I mean is, remember how he said he took everything with him? He wouldn't let go of his personal belongings to help things move faster. But he was also going through a lot of swampland, and the mosquitoes were absolutely horrendous. He finally gets to Saratoga at Freeman's Farm, and who's waiting for him there? Well, the Continental Army, and they're under command of General Gates. General Gates, take it or leave him, from me personally, I don't think he was that good. People will argue with me, but I don't think he's that good. You'll see later on. Anyway, so General Gates is there, and he has Arnold with him, who came over after the Battle of Stanwix, and they put up a fight. While planning the fight they were going to put up, they were arguing over the plans. And so General Gates is actually in command with Arnold as his subordinate. And they're differing on opinions on how the battle needs to go. So Gates wants to take a defensive approach, have them come to us, and we'll defend it and drive them back. Arnold wants the complete opposite. We need to attack. We need to go after them right now. And the argument gets so heated that Gates had actually banished Arnold to his tent and said, "You are not going to be here at this battle. Like, you've basically ruined your chance of being here." So the battle starts taking place. Now, first things keep in mind, there were two separate battles of Saratoga. One at Bemis Heights and one at Freeman's Farm. So I'm quickly just kind of combining the two. They were like 2 weeks apart, but they weren't even 2 miles apart, let's say. So the battle starts to happen, and everything that Gates was planning is a disaster right now. It's not working out in the ways. Disaster is going to be a lot of great terms to use for the Continental Army, by the way, because that's ultimately, even though all said and done, they won. The disaster is how they did it. Anyway, so battle's going on. Gates hears it. He's not happy with what he's hearing. You can tell things aren't going good. He leaves his tent, and I love the fact that this is a true statement. He jumps on his white horse and goes and saves the day. I love that part. So great. Oh, here we go. When he came and actually re-rallied the troops, we were basically at the beginnings of a retreat. He re-rallied everybody, got them all back together, and set forth to, get the battle going. Well, he got the battle going. Not just that, but Daniel Morgan, who's a name you'll hear with Greene later on. And Daniel Morgan took his riflemen. Now keep in mind, we're using in muskets and such, but when you have the rifling put into the barrel to where you can actually aim your rifle better, you definitely have a better shot. Well, that's what Morgan's men were. They all had rifles, and they were riflemen. The term, no, I can't really back this up, but I believe the term sniper was invented there. If I'm wrong, tell me, please. I'd hate to keep saying that and not be true, not have it be true. There you go. So he had his men in trees and had them actually aim down at officers, and they were good. They were doing it well. I'm not even on the trail, but that's okay. I know right where we're at. So along with Benedict Arnold taking the rest of the ground troops and leading them into the actual battle, we won. We had actually beat the British. Now, this wasn't like the 1,500 Hessians that we got at Trenton. This is a real army of 6,000 men that we had just defeated. Burgoyne had to actually surrender 6,000 men, all because General Howe wanted Philadelphia. Now, keep in mind, Philadelphia held zero military value. There was nothing for him to actually go for Philadelphia for, other than the moral victory. When Burgoyne had to surrender 6,000 men, that's a much more of a moral victory for the Continentals than Philadelphia was. So now, sorry, just trying to get through parts where I shouldn't even be here. So Burgoyne surrenders his 6,000 men. But what was really to come of this, there we go, is the important part. And what I mean is, so Benjamin Franklin, let's talk about him for a second. He was in England at the beginning when things started to really get testy with the rebellion compared to war. And he left England and came back here, and didn't get to stay back here for too long before Congress, he was part of Congress, decided, we need you in France. We need them to be allies and make it happen. So he's been there the whole time, and that's what he's been trying to do. And the French, they're helping out. They're, oh, here's a little bit of money here. Oh, here's a ship. Oh, here's this, really minimal things being done. Definitely not what we need as far as help goes. So finally, after the Battle of Saratoga, France decides, well, these Americans, it looks like they can actually do something for themselves, which is kind of what they've been waiting for, to basically commit in the first place. But ultimately, that's what they ended up doing. They ended up committing, declaring war on the British and becoming our allies. And one thing I can promise you is without the French help, we wouldn't have gotten this. We would not have succeeded. And that, so right there is where, there we go. After the Battle of Brandywine, and Washington knew that Howe was in Philadelphia, he wanted to stay somewhere close and keep a close eye on him, you know, see what's going on. So he moved to the Highlands. I'm not sure that's the right word. But he moved to the hilltops of the Lehigh Valley into Valley Forge. The story changes for a lot of people, and most people, especially in Valley Forge. Valley Forge is where General Greene, who still retains battlefield command, but takes over Thomas Mifflin's, General Mifflin's job as Quartermaster General. Here we go. So, and also, the big thing that happens there is where General von Steuben from the Prussian army, well, supposedly, but General von Steuben from the Prussian army comes into Valley Forge and teaches the Continental Army how to be soldiers. You know, how to run a camp, how to run a battle, how to drill. He actually wrote the book on the subject, and it's still, parts of it are still being used today.